to start our show. Okay, let me see. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on time. The time is 8 p.m., so we're going to start our episode number 10 of Hello, I'm an Author. Ask Me Anything. Today, our topic of discussion is on group facilitation in times of crisis. Yep. And it's really my honor to be able to invite the co-authors of this book, Spot on Facilitation, to be with us this evening, and they are none other than Prabu and Janice. Prabu, Janice, would you like to say hello to our viewers?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for signing in and having this time with us.
Hello, everyone. This is Prabu here. Thank you, Candid Creations, Kokwa, for inviting us.
Welcome. Okay, let me do the share screen. Yep. So thank you for joining us, spending your time with us. I know right now it's election fever, election season, so you have forgo your election rally to be with us on our show. Yeah, it is really with a mixed feeling this evening. This is episode number 10 of Hello, I'm an Author, Ask Me Anything. Episode number 10 of season 1. And some of you may know this is the concluding episode for season 1. So we'll take a break before we come back again for season 2. Yeah. So let's move on. Okay, if you're watching right now, just remember, if you have any questions on the topic of group facilitation in times of crisis, please post your questions in the comment box. And then once I receive it, I'll be able to post it to our guest authors. Yeah. Help us to share this Facebook video so that we can all learn together. You can share on your wall or you can invite friends. And like are always encouraged. Okay. Just a quick reminder, there will be a lucky draw. This lucky draw will be conducted post-session. 3 copies of Spot On Facilitation, the second edition, each worth $27.94, will be given away to lucky viewers who post questions in the comment box during the live session. So do remember, prepare all your questions. In fact, you can start posting them in the comment box right now. So I'm going to start with an introduction of our 2 guests today, the co-authors of Spot On Facilitation. First will be Janice. Yep. Janice is a co-founder of Facilitator Network back in 2004, where they would like to upscale the competencies of facilitators in Asia. She is also the co-author of Spot On Facilitation, a master trainer of Spot On Facilitation, which is a program which they created out of the book. 20 years of experience in both private and public sector across different industries and holding different senior management positions. Yep. Extensive training, facilitation, consultancy experience in organization-wide change management, business process re-engineering, productivity improvement, corporate strategic planning, action planning, and project management. What a mouthful. She also sits on the management committee of the Singapore Productivity Association, also a lead and senior national business excellence assessor, and facilitated internationally using methods such as the World Cafe, Open Space Technology, and Future Search. Yep. Next is the other co-author of the book as well. So Prabu is the co-founder as well for Facilitator Network. He is also the co-author together with Janice of the book Spot On Facilitation. Master trainer for Spot On Facilitation, just like Janice. Similarly, 20 years of experience in the MNC, yep, with many big companies like Philips, AT&T, and Compaq, and spanning diverse functions in engineering, materials, project management, TQM, HRD, managing change, supply chain re-engineering. He set the foundation for current 19 years of training, facilitation, and consulting work in organization development. He has designed and delivered numerous OD interventions for MNCs, SME, government departments, non-profits in Singapore, as well as regionally. All right. So that's an intro for our 2 authors, our 2 co-authors for the book Spot On Facilitation. So we're going to dive right in. Yep. Hi, Jamie. Thanks for joining us. Yep. So if you have any questions on the topic of group facilitation in times of crisis, please post your question in the comment box. Okay. So I'm going to start out with the first question. Yeah. So maybe a bit of context. As we all know, needless to explain, we are now in the midst of a global crisis, and this is none other than coronavirus pandemic. So many companies are struggling, yeah, both profits and non-profits. It is also in times like this when companies are preparing for their eventual recovery. It is important for companies to create opportunities within the organization, create the space for reflection. Yep. So sometimes this may involve slowing down. Yep. But the key is really that it's able to let alternative perspectives surface. You may need to come up with different business model, different mental model. With the whole idea that reflection itself would then better bring out the insights and help to prepare your organization for the recovery. All right. So my first question that I'm going to ask to our co-authors today is, given this context, how is facilitating group conversations during a crisis different from normal times? Over to you.
Okay, maybe let me start by sharing a quote that I found. It says that in times of crisis, people want to know that you care more than they care what you know. So this is by Will Rogers, a famous American actor. I thought it is very apt that when we are facilitating group conversations during crisis, it is very important for us to remember that we need to demonstrate care to the people that we are facilitating. The second point is that people are impacted differently and to different extent. So they can be feeling a range of emotions, and no one, they are not the same for different people because it may affect them in a different way. So we need to provide a safe space. At the same time, we need to create a supportive environment so that people will be more willing to share, and it is okay that they feel differently because of the different impact that they experience. So as a facilitator during crisis, we start by acknowledging the crisis. We start by providing opportunity for the group to share what the impact that they have experienced. So Prabu, you would like to add?
Yeah, as you were sharing, and also as Kogwa wrote to us with the topic, I was just thinking the key word there being crisis. And of course, today when we look at the crisis, we would all converge on COVID, right? COVID-19. But maybe for the purpose of this evening's conversation, I would like to also now and then look at crisis from a wider definition. Maybe not just a pandemic, right? So would it be acceptable if I define crisis as, for example, a natural disaster that occurs, in a locality which upsets the norm? Hence it becomes a crisis, right? So
Yes.
Natural disasters and man-made disasters. So are we okay to have that definition
Yeah, sure.
in the
Prabu?
conversation? Okay.
Yes. Yep. So generally, yeah, crisis is the definition is pretty generic. You have something to share with respect to this?
Yeah. So whatever Jenny said earlier, I think I would like to define it as anything that prevents life as usual, business as usual, the status quo, in a way becomes a crisis, lah. In some ways, right? Because it's upsetting our usual way of working,
Yes.
especially in an institutional setting when there are SOP. Take our schools, for example,
Yes.
right? Very nicely set SOP. The students, the young people, they know what to expect. When in the daily routine of going to school, the teachers, the administrators in the school know what to expect. Parents know what to expect. Come. this crisis came, and even parents had to scramble to figure things out. Teachers, even the school administrators, the students themselves, right? So anything that kind of upsets the norm,
Mm.
I'll use that definition and explore.
Okay, fine. That's great. Yep. So, I mean, just like the current COVID-19 pandemic, it has a lot
Mm,
of ripple effect, and
mm,
it literally has disrupted personal life, school life, work life, and it's definitely no longer business as usual. Right.
mm,
Okay.
mm,
Hi, Patrick. Hi, Rupika. Thanks for joining us. Yep. If you have just joined us, we are discussing the topic of group facilitation in times of crisis. Do post your question in the comment box if you have any questions to our guest authors. Three of you will be walking away in a lucky draw with a copy of the book Spot On Facilitation. Yeah. So maybe let's move on. So my next question would be, what do you think are the most important roles of the facilitator in times like this?
Okay, the typical role of a facilitator during normal time would still apply, such as like guiding the group through the meeting process of whatever the conversation or dialogue is about. The topic discussion could be decision making, and facilitator need to ask good questions, right? Be very skillful about asking questions. Have to ensure there's equal participation from everyone in the meeting, elicit a response from them and
Mm,
clarify, the situation that they are all facing. In times of crisis, I think what is perhaps needed more would be being an understanding listener,
mm,
much more than the normal time. So we need to listen with full understanding of how these participants are, how are they going, what are they going through, how are they feeling, and
mm,
and then be able to respond accordingly, showing that we understand, or at least we try and understand.
mm.
Okay,
Okay.
Prabu.
Prabu, got anything to
mm.
add?
Yes. So if I continue with a wider definition of the crisis, right?
Yes.
The other thing I think we need to take note of is, as a facilitator, be prepared and accept that it's not going to be the norm for you,
Mm,
right? So
mm.
if in the normal times, I may have my own style as a facilitator to
Yeah.
carry out my work, my design, my delivery, my logistics related to it, etc. But
Yes.
in a crisis defined in a very wider context, I need to be ready to change as a facilitator. I need to be ready
Mm,
to adapt my approach, my style. Even
mm.
the methods and techniques I use may need to change.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay, okay. Any example you could share with us, Prabhu, on
sure,
some groups, yep, on
sure,
how the facilitator had to change?
sure. So right now, if we look at it, very common, right? Because of the
Mm,
COVID-19, work from home, study from home, and all that, the use of technology, right, is
mm,
one. I mean, we all doing it, have been doing it. In another context, in a particular country that we went to, which would
mm.
be, I wouldn't say it's war torn, but it's almost like war torn, because of internal strife, internal
Right.
in the country, right? There were a lot of strife between different factions.
Mm,
The facilitators from the NGO we were working with had to change, because you could be in a situation where there could be live rounds flying around, as
wow.
the factions went into fight. But the facilitators on the ground were very committed, but they took the
Yes,
necessary precautions, of course, both physical as
sure,
well as psychological preparation to go
sure.
into operate in areas like that.
Right. Wow.
So I like
That's
to add
yeah.
to what Prabhu had shared, his personal experience about, there are some probably conflict, right, in the area where
Mm,
he
Conflict.
facilitate.
Yes.
So his point was about being agile, right, being ready
mm,
to change and respond to the situation as it unfolds. I can share a
mm,
recent experience where I facilitated a group of single parents, and during
mm,
this time of COVID, and because their situation is more complex than a typical parent. So I actually gave more time for them to really speak their hearts out. Although
Right.
that's not the original intent, but as the parents start speaking out about how studying from home is placing a lot of pressure on them, because being from a single parents family and most of them are from lower income, they struggle with a lot of things, trying to get everything ready. Being a mom, being a teacher, they were saying that it is too much for them to handle. So before we can go into the topic of discussion, I
Yes.
have to give a lot of time for them to really speak about how they feel about this whole thing and the impact that they are experiencing. So I have
Right.
to be extra patient, and I'm glad I did give them that time. And we did kind of could not finish as anticipated the list of questions that we wanted to talk about. But at
Yes.
least they go away from the session feeling heard. They have been heard, with
Exactly.
HEARD. Yeah. So, and the feedback was that I have shown empathy to them during this time, and I thought that is a good endorsement of what I think is important during this time. Yeah.
Okay. So that also brings us back to the point about being agile, being flexible. We may have our facilitation plan, but sometimes we may need to deviate from it in order to address some of the emotions that were running in the room. Yeah. Janice, could you then share with us how did you get the participants to open up and to really start sharing with one another? Can you still recall?
Yeah, so just like in a normal meeting, we still have this kind of introduction, right?
Yes.
Icebreaker where everybody introduce themselves. And
Yes.
here we actually have a question that asks people, how are they feeling? So
Mm.
that was intentional to hear, how are people feeling, now, as it
Yes.
today. Of course, they are actually very candid. Some people say they feel tired, they feel sleepy. And I acknowledge that despite feeling tired, sleepy, they are still, they still log on and still participate, which is a very good thing, right? So,
Yes.
uh, and we also must be prepared that while we want to engage everyone, if some of them feel at any point in time they do not want to speak up, because something really, maybe they feel very hurt about even thinking about something, right, that happened to them,
Yeah.
we do allow them to not talk about it. So we won't
Ah.
pressurize them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if they prefer to take a back seat, that is all right
Yes,
because
it is
yeah, you
fine.
can't really
We
force
did
them
so-called
to.
the freedom, that at
Yes,
any point anybody feel they prefer not to talk about it, it is perfectly all right.
that's right. Okay, thanks for sharing. Yep. If you're with us right now, hi Maxwell. Yep, thanks for joining us. We are now on the topic of group facilitation in times of crisis, and together with us, our two co-authors for the book Spot On Facilitation. So to help us, please post your question in the comment box. Any questions about group facilitation that you would like to ask them? You could be a team leader right now. You could be a teacher. As long as you work with groups, I think this topic should be close to your heart on how do you facilitate groups during times like this. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. So just now we're also saying that the facilitator need to be agile, right? In managing facilitation during crisis. Yeah. Maybe both of you can share with us before the session itself, how do we as facilitator prepare ourselves mentally for some possible scenarios that may happen due to crisis?
Yes, so to prepare, one good way is to really understand the background of the participants. Who are they?
Uh-huh. Mm.
Yeah, what kind of situation they are in,
Mm.
and how would they be feeling? So that could be extreme. So what are the extreme situations that we can encounter? And then
Mm.
we ourselves psychologically, also must be prepared to respond should it
Mm.
happen. Like in my case of single parents, there could be potentially what we call emotional breakdown. So even
Mm.
as they talk about, because we talk about life since they became single parent. So some of
Mm.
them was single parent for a long time. They have to recall. Some of them was recent, right?
Mm.
And all of them, most of them have a very painful memory because they have a lack of support. Because being single parent is still quite a social stigma locally,
Mm.
right, in
Mm.
Singapore.
Mm.
So I anticipated there could be some emotional breakdown, and when that
Mm.
happened, what would I want to do, right? So
Mm.
with that in mind, then you say, okay, that's the worst case scenario, right? And of course, we are
Mm.
prepared to let people go silent if they don't feel like speaking.
Mm.
And yeah, so with that, then we are prepared. Yeah, at least for that conversation. But then I was fortunate that all of them who share are
Mm.
actually pretty positive to my surprise. Yeah, about
Mm.
life,
Mm.
about life, and most of them are single parent by choice. By choice,
Mm.
meaning that yeah, they felt life was worse off when they were married, and then
Right.
life became better, although it was a big struggle. Yeah, when they
Sure.
became a parent. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Prabhu, yourself?
Yes. So, again, keeping my definition of crisis wider than the pandemic,
Yeah.
I've always thought about it. In fact, I do scenario planning in my mind. If ever a facilitation situation that is outside the norm occurs, how would
Mm.
I manage or handle it? So,
Mm.
one of it, and I get triggered by the news that I watch. So, for
Mm.
example, when I watch a news that a particular place has gotten flooded, right?
Yeah.
Flooding, and then the people were evacuated and brought to a place, some high dry place. Then I'm thinking, wouldn't it be lovely, in addition to the medical support that's there and the food supply and all the emergency supplies, wouldn't it be lovely if there are trained facilitators who are in the midst there
Mm.
so that they can bring these groups together and bring them through a conversation, you
Mm.
know? And I do think about it and I say, how would I design such a session? If I have 200
Mm.
people in a school hall because they
Yes.
were evacuated there due to an emergency,
Yes.
what would I do and how would I organize it? What methods, techniques might I use? Because it's not business as usual, right? I mean,
Yep.
these people are probably emotionally thinking about the home, which is now underwater, and maybe their valuable things all gone or destroyed. Yeah, so I do that kind of thinking, and I hope in Singapore we don't have to use it. We probably will not need to use it, but
Right.
when we work with the regions and all, very vulnerable places, these are good scenario plans for facilitators.
Mm. It is. So that's when
Mm.
groups are in distress themselves, right?
Yeah.
And this could be anything like even in refugee camps, there is definitely not life as usual for many of them. But facilitation, so I guess the question is, how do you see facilitation playing its role in such a scenario? How will it help?
Mm. I'll go first. Let me go. So you see, if we look at the basic tenet of facilitation, it's about bringing people together, diverse people together, and having conversations, if necessary, using tools, techniques, etc., so that we can bring them and diverge and converge their thoughts, ideas, wants, needs, etc. So, in a situation which is not usual, and I'll just go
Mm,
back to the situation where there's a flood and people have been brought in, as a
mm,
facilitator, as I said, number one, you need to um, be prepared to change your ways. The facilitator need to be prepared to change his or her ways, right, from
mm.
what you would do usually. So, in
Yeah.
this kind of a crisis situation in an emergency hall, first of all, I would not be too worried or interested about the technique or the method and the right use of the technique, the clinical use of the facilitation technique. I would be more
Mm.
interested to see what can I do to help these people manage their emotions and socio psycho being, right, well-being.
Mm.
I think
Mm.
that's what a facilitator, a group process facilitator, can do in a
Mm.
situation like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
so
I see.
based on what Prabhu shared about the state of the people, right, the emotional state of the people during a crisis. So recently, I actually received something very useful, I thought, from Douglas and Christian Chow.
Yeah.
The STAR model that they were sharing, saying that
Yes.
start with emotion. So perhaps a facilitator can create a space for people to break out into small group like pairs or in trios, 3-person in a group
Yes.
to start sharing how they are feeling, right? Their emotions. So they
Yes.
can slowly open up and
Yes.
then take stock of what is the current situation. Yeah,
Mm.
so what are they facing? How is
Yes.
it? How are they affected? And then talk about what possibilities, right? Do they see
Mm.
moving
Mm.
ahead, and what kind of resources or support that they will need. So I thought that kind of guide the conversation rather than what Prabhu was saying about get too hung up about methodologies and all that, but is in fact creating an environment for conversation. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, so it's about addressing the current reality, and sometimes the
Mhm.
simple act of just inviting people to share, to speak to one another, it can be
Yes.
actually very calming and therapeutic. But it's
Yes.
important that we move them towards hope. What
Yeah.
are the possibilities? What are your resources? And then so that they are then prepared to take action. Yeah.
Yes.
Hi everyone. Hi Michelle. Hi Wei. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. If you have questions right now, please post them in the comment box. So yes, actually we have a question. I will put it on screen. So this comes from Rupika. Um, Rupika says that online facilitation is not comfortable arrangement for many people in this crisis, and it happens because everyone is at home.
Yeah.
And if people want to share something but they can't share, her contact is also about facilitating mothers. So
Mhm.
Janice may have some experience to share. Was the session you talked about earlier also a virtual session?
Yes, because of COVID,
Ah,
right? We couldn't. It was originally meant to be a face-to-face session, but because of
yeah.
COVID, we have to do it online.
Ah,
For this situation, to ensure that they feel free to talk, many of them are actually on their handphone. So
oh,
they have the apps on their handphone, right? So whatever platform you use must be able to support, handphone so that they can move, right, to a place where they can speak, in private. So I
mm,
thought that would be helpful rather
mm,
than, a laptop that's fixed, right, and it's kind of difficult to move. So many of them were on handphone, yeah,
I
and then
see.
they are free to move about, and we do allow them the space and time to see that if they are hesitant to share at the moment due to their surrounding, right? We move on to another person first, and then we come back to the person again, right? When they
Ah,
feel that they are in a space where they can speak, in private. Yeah.
So let them speak only when they feel that they are ready to speak. Yeah.
Yes.
Was the part about using phone intentional, as in you told them to log in using the phone?
No, actually, we gave them the choice, but many
Mm.
many of them actually don't possess laptop. So
Ah,
smartphone is the choice of majority.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
so happened.
Okay.
I think that since now we are talking about if they need privacy to share, then being mobile, right? If they're able to
Yes,
move from
exactly.
place to place, becomes I thought a very neat solution. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Well, I never thought of that. So they may need to find another
Yes.
room, then they could easily
Yes.
move there. Yeah, if they need to share
Correct.
something. Prabhu, any experience on
Uh,
online facilitation?
yes, sure. So I'm picking up from Rupika's question or
Yeah.
comment about, if I'm facilitating mothers, right? So I'm just
Mm-mm-mm.
wondering. So there could be two aspects. One is I cannot even get onto the call and all because I've got my babies to take care of, right? So
Yeah.
not available. I cannot. It's not so convenient. So that could be
Yeah.
one. I'm not too sure if that's also an angle. Janice has
Mm.
addressed. Um, um, Janice has addressed the other one about using the phone as an option,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and not very heavy technology. And I see that Rubika has replied saying yes, phone is a better option.
Oh dear.
Mm.
He has replied.
Prabhu's
Yep.
maybe
Yep.
the
Yep.
internet signal. Prabhu, we lost you for a minute.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me
Maybe
repeat.
you repeat
So
yourself. Yeah.
yeah, so I know I just said that I saw Rupika's comment come in where she
Yes.
replies to Jenny's view that
Yes.
yes, thanks, phone can be better option. So
That's
okay,
right.
so that's settled. But having said that, my own point on this is whether it's mothers or doing a face to face with, say, where there's power hierarchy in that group, bosses and follower staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if let's say that even with face to face, let's say this group would have been a very tough call to facilitate this group, in a face to face. Now, in an online, it can even be tougher, right? Because as a facilitator,
Mm.
you really cannot monitor and get
Mm.
body language cues so that you can adjust your own progress or process.
Mm.
So maybe if it is required that we must use non face to face and online, as part of our assessment as facilitators when we design that session, maybe we have to ask ourselves, is there an alternative to this online that we could use, right?
Okay.
Of course, the argument is if it's a crisis, forget about face to face, let's say. Then, like Jenny said, using the phone, maybe making going into smaller groups instead of getting big groups
Yeah.
and creating unsafe psychological non-safety. So smaller groups
Yeah.
might be one. The other thing to
Yes.
do, but very time-consuming and effort-taking for the facilitator, is to engage these group members in the group one by one first. You know,
Oh.
um,
Yeah.
but remember, it's very time consuming, it's effort taking. But look, hey,
Yes.
if it's crisis and I cannot meet face to face, and this is a new group, we don't know, they don't know each other, I don't know
Yes.
them, maybe one step to do is to do an one on one with them first before bringing them all together. So that those are my inputs.
Right. So it could be some pre-work that the facilitator
Yes.
need to do, right? By
Yeah, yeah,
addressing the participants one to one before
yeah,
the actual big group.
yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. Yep.
Mhm,
We have another question from Chen Wei. So I'm going to flash his question. Yep.
mm.
So Chen Wei is asking, how would you facilitate in an increasingly emotionally charged group where there are strong anger, there are sadness, and yet it's through a non-face-to-face meeting? Any tips for him?
Hmm. Whether it's face to face or it's online, when the people are emotionally charged, right? I think one thing I would recommend is to take a pause. And taking a pause means let's take a minute's break, right? Take a break and allow emotions to calm down a bit first. And if it is possible at all, everybody else can kind of go off first for a while and leave. If you have a co-facilitator or if you yourself, right? And just be with the person who, of course, if it's talking about one person or a few persons, right, that is having these
Mm,
strong emotions, and to just check if this person can continue. Yeah, whether
mm,
they are in a state that they can continue with the conversation. Yes, Prabhu.
mm,
And also, this is an interesting question, and I concur with Janice. Whether it's face to face or online, we
mm,
can and do encounter, right? Can encounter such situations. I would also, in addition to whatever Janice has said, ask myself: did this group come in
mm,
already primed for that behavior, right? Because there were a lot of
mm,
baggage that they're all carrying in, or did it trigger in the session? As a facilitator, I think this is very important to try to ascertain if you can. Now, if they are already coming in with baggage, because this group has, they are all just waiting to get on each other's throats,
Yep.
then the design of the session will be very different,
Right.
right? Because I've already got advanced privilege information that this group is, there's already a time bomb ticking.
Yes.
And they are bringing them into the room ready for an possible explosion. Then the
Yes.
design will be different. Maybe I'll do that same thing. A lot of these techniques or micro techniques are repeatable, like engage them one-on-one first, identify what's going on, before we bring them in
Yes.
as part of the design. Yeah. Now, if it got triggered in the session, that means they came in, they were all okay, but
Yeah.
as a highly skilled facilitator, you were able to open their bottled up emotions. Yeah, possible, right? If you can recognize what might have triggered it, for example, you might have asked them something, or somebody in the group might have said something that triggers this behavior in the group. It's a
Yes.
powerful moment. It's a
Wow.
powerful moment in group work for the facilitator to pause the design, pick that moment, and see if you can help them resolve, have that conversation that triggered this in the first place, right? Yeah. So to me, I think yes, we can bring them out, small group and all that stuff, but we can also use those moments to help the group go from this level to this level, because there's something in there that triggered when you were with them,
So in this scenario where a trigger during a session created a moment of anger between maybe two person or two groups, then what would you do at that point of time?
Then that's where what Janice said earlier might come in. Take time
Yep.
out, separate the parties,
Okay.
and if you have a co-facilitator, which we always recommend, by the way,
Sure.
when working with groups, excuse me, when working with groups, and if we know such instances are going to come up, it's always good to go, with a co or even a triple, a double co-facilitators who
Yep.
are highly skilled and trained like you, so that they can separately and take work on it.
Okay.
And there is a tool, a method called needs and offers, which is in our book, by the way.
Yes.
So needs and offers, not our
Yes.
creation. We learned it from an Australian veteran facilitator, and
That's
it's
right.
based on negotiation theory, basically. Needs and offers, right? We go into conflict because there is some need that I want of you, but you're not able to offer to me.
Yes.
So, so the needs and offers is a powerful technique. So we may activate a needs and offers activity with the parties, and in which case we will need two concurrent facilitators embedded there. Because if you're alone and you try to do needs and offers while you're working with this group might go home, or they might create another new problem for you. Right. By the way, when we
Yes.
talk about facilitation, we are talking about group work, group process facilitation.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. Yep. Needs and offer is a powerful tool. Yep. If you need the group to come together and kind of step into one another's shoes and start to see how do we support, it could be two departments or two groups of people. Thanks. Yep. If you're with us right now, post your question in the comment box. Any questions on the topic of group facilitation in times of crisis? Yep. We have another question from Terrence. Yeah. Terrence's question is, what are the main obstacles that both of you face when facilitating online?
Okay, so I'll share first, and Prabu, you can add that later, add on. For me, one is about, the many distractions that one person can have when you're doing online meetings, right? That one is whatever that can distract them, right? That means they can be doing, they can be multitasking and not paying full attention. It's a major obstacle that I personally feel, and then I'll be very uncomfortable of doing this online meeting session. That's one. The other one is about the distractions coming from environment, noise, family members, interruptions, those that are out of their own control. The first one is they have some control, but it could be their own behavior, right? That is doing that. But the other one is outside of their own control, which they have. They can't do anything if there's a screaming child, or if there's a family member disrupting them for whatever reason. So these are, to me, quite difficult to manage. Except, of course, we tell people to mute their mic, right, so that it doesn't disturb the rest in a meeting. That's something that we can do to mitigate such a thing. But the one that is on their own, that they are distracted, that will be challenging. And also having to wait for quite a while before they can actually speak, Of course, we can use multiple conversation using breakout rooms and all that. That would mean having someone who is savvy enough from within the group to be able to keep track of the conversation and then do a report back, right? Report out. Otherwise, that would mean you need additional resources of having trained facilitators, right, to be in those breakout rooms, those virtual breakout rooms. So those will be the 3 points. I'll share, leave the rest to Prabu.
I see.
Sure.
Prabu, your experience?
Yes, Koga. Maybe at this time I will use the chance to sell a little bit of Koyo. May I on virtual facilitation? So last year, Facilitators Network Singapore, we actually released a one-day workshop called Virtual Facilitation Workshop, VFW.
Oh,
even before COVID.
Before COVID.
Yes. VFW 1.0. And then now we are redesigning very quickly, VFW 2.0, because, meantime, we have all learned, fellow facilitators, practitioners in this call, people in the industry, we have all learned a lot in this very short time, right? And so we are now putting it together, and we will be releasing Virtual Facilitation Workshop 2.0, VFW 2.0. And we're going to bring in these experiences that we have gained, and also, okay, to answer this question specifically, thanks for allowing me to do that little bit of sharing, but it's all in the spirit of sharing that, there's going to be a lot of help that's going to come out there after this experience. I would like to add on to what Janice has said about the challenges, obstacles in facilitating online. I've done a few already and all. Other than that, technology challenges, right? I mean, let's set that aside. Internet down and all this can happen to anyone, anytime. You were just sharing one before we started about your incident at the last session, where your guest forgot to keep the laptop charged and went blank halfway, right? I mean, all these can happen. But
exactly.
But one that I'm beginning to see happening now is when, as facilitators of online, and we bring people together, and let's say there are 8, 10, 15 of them, and they're all at different levels of readiness. Different levels of readiness to do online. Both technology-wise, etiquette. Online requires an etiquette now, right? I mean, right now, because it's 3 of us and you have muted others, it's okay. But if this was a conversation going, imagine if I am, I didn't unmute and I'm here going, eating and gulping and gum, 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 and all that. This is all basic etiquette, and I've seen that happen. So I think, but it will take some time. Anything new takes time. And that's one of the biggest challenges I've seen, where the audience we have are all coming in at different levels of readiness. And as a facilitator, you need to really be aware.
Okay. Just curious, how do you address the issue of etiquette?
So, I mean, during the session, we can't quite write. We can just do general remarks, general comment, But the beauty is, as the facilitator, the platform will allow you to mute everyone if you want. So that's the biggest control you have, right? Boom, and then so that's one thing that I've personally done, because actually they were not needed to talk. It's just that they turned on the unmuted or whatever. So
Yeah.
so that's one thing that you can take control. But I believe that over a period of time, as all of us, as a fraternity, all of us facilitators and the industry, the users, there will be some balancing that will happen where they all learn. We
Yes.
all learn social learning, and we all learn what works, what doesn't work, what to do, what not to do, and all that. Yeah.
Yes.
So, for example, because of the lighting condition, you can see I've got a nice glow here,
The
right?
halo.
The halo. So obviously I have to do something about it, but but I'm aware because it's not so bad now. The first time I went on, it blinded
Yeah.
everyone, and they said, "Prabu, can you please go off video?" I had to go off video because I was blinding everyone.
They did ask you to turn off the light.
No, no. I think turn off the light, they'll be even more scared. Anyway,
Thanks for your story.
mm,
Yeah. So
Yeah, just
definitely,
now,
yeah.
Prabhu, yeah, I would like
Yes,
to
Jenny.
add, he was talking about we must be aware and accept there's technology inequality, right, in terms of the experience of the
Mm.
participants, right?
Mm.
What a facilitator can do, you can always have 10 minutes before the actual session, which you did with us as well, right? Yeah, so you have
Mm.
a pre-session session. So a pre-session to brief participants
Mm.
on how to use, and then also the etiquette so that it won't eat
Mm.
into the actual start time. So that's
Mm.
something I've done, and I think it is absolutely necessary. And I can see Sabah has given Prabhu a very good solution about wearing a cap. Yeah, Prabhu, next time you can do that. Stop
Solve
if you will
your
allow.
problem.
Actually, after
blinding
that, I got
people.
prepared. Just give me 10 seconds.
Yes.
Carry on, Janice. Carry on, Janice.
Okay, so that was about the technology one, and the other one is about my one more biggest obstacle is about providing equal speaking opportunity
Yes.
and keeping track of who has spoken, who has not.
Yes.
So that is another challenge, especially when you have quite a number of people right there, and then you see our screen is limited in terms of size, right? Then you have
True.
a lot of people. Mine is usually, of course, participants themselves are not that many, but I have many observers from the stakeholders, different stakeholder groups. Yeah, then I have a challenge of keeping track, the just using this small little screen and the small faces that I see, who has spoken and who has not
Ah.
spoken. So that is also another obstacle in terms of this virtual facilitation, of doing that. And of course, I can always rely on them, say, okay, who else have not spoken that I may have missed, right? We do not want to miss anyone. Yeah, so that's
Mm.
something we can do.
Yes,
Okay, now
yes.
that
And that,
Prabhu has got a cap, it helps a lot. Yeah, thank you.
wow. Now
So,
you're so handsome.
really, yeah, thank you. So, I think before we go to Michelle's question, Zenwei has and Terence have thanked us for the reply to
Yes.
their questions, so which is good.
Th-
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the
And
acknowledgement.
yeah,
Thank
and
you.
Shannon says laying ground rules before start of virtual session helps for sure. Yeah, helps a lot. Yeah, thank you, Shannon. Yep.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Okay. Let's move on to Michelle's question. Yep.
mm,
Uh,
mm.
so this is a bit on your personal preference. So, oh, sorry. Okay. So Michelle's question is, in a crisis, if you have a choice, okay. So suppose it is not COVID where it's
Yeah.
contagious, yeah. Would you prefer face-to-face or virtual facilitation? Why? Pros and
For
cons.
me, for me, it's without even having to think too much. It will be face to face because in
Mm-hmm.
a crisis, and if it is face to face facilitation, there are some gestures that I can do to show that I care, as in put my arms around the person,
Mm,
sitting close to them, So there are things I can't do virtually, especially if they feel emotionally charged up, right?
yeah.
uh, in a virtual session, there's this limitation, about certain things that you can do, to help the person who is really, feeling these strong emotions. Yeah, Prabhu.
Mm,
Yeah, even before this technology came up, right? Even before Skype,
mm,
um, we did have in the corporate world we did have video conferencing.
Yes.
Right? Especially if you have got your US based company and then the Singapore based and you have to do video conferencing.
Yes.
It is not crisis, remember, it's happy times.
Normal
Even
times.
during
Yes.
normal times, even during that time, if there's a chance, they will always try to bring the groups together, fly them
Mm.
in, face to face, right? So that's normal
Mm.
times and people did that. Now in crisis and where there can be a lot of emotionally charged situations, then if you ask me, Michelle says, what would your preference be? I would always opt for face to face,
Mm.
direct, because Janice has already said why. As facilitators, it's not about just keeping to the agenda and bringing them from point A to point B, right? Which is the
Mm.
definition of a facilitator, bring a group from point A to B. But it's also about the journey as you go from A to B, what's
Mm.
happening with the group. Are you going to make them better off or leave
Mm.
them worst off when they arrive at B?
Mm.
And what about you? Are you going to be worst off after bringing them on the journey? You also, you're punctured already. A punctured
Yeah.
is not too bad, but you are so tormented. Everybody should be benefiting from that process and experience, right? Face to
Yes.
face
Yes.
will allow that. Online, there will be limitations.
That's right. That's right. Yep. So it's not just the final outcome itself, but it's the whole process and the whole journey that everyone journeys through. And it's also about the facilitator. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have
because I
experienced
was
that.
remembering now one particular incident. It was a face-to-face session, and this person was sharing and was getting emotional, and you can hear her voice, choking, And then
Yeah.
because it's face-to-face, and of course there's no gender issue, it's a female, so I just go around and give her a hug. Now, you
Yes.
can't do this virtually, how to give this person a hug. Or even, and another elderly was feeling very upset about something is she was sharing something, just putting your hand on that person's hand, like
Yes.
touching the hand like that,
It is.
they
It is.
feel so assured that you are there, right? And you're
Mm.
listening without you
Mm.
speaking.
Mm.
So you can't do this virtually. So these gestures of showing care is so important. They give them the experience that you are there for them, right?
Yep.
And yeah, and of course, unless no choice, then we use virtual. That's
Yep.
the way I feel. Yeah.
It is. Well, I like your hat, man, Prabu.
Yeah, the point I'm making is
Yeah,
the the point I'm making is if you have all these like Sabah's recommendation to put on cap and all, throughout your 90 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever, don't have the same cap because it becomes very boring.
I love it. Oh, Michelle, love your hat as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes the power of touch is really irreplaceable. Yeah, and
yes.
that's something that is not able to replicate in the virtual world. So maybe wow, time flies. Now is 8:53. One last question from me. Okay. Um. So what do you see to be the future of facilitation? Say after COVID, we have the vaccine, and the virus is gone. What will be the future of facilitation? Any of you?
This one Prabhu has to go first. Since his head is so tall, he must have a lot of wisdom.
So I would answer that for a few bullet points. Number one is you have already qualified it to say it's after the crisis, right?
Mm,
Everyone in the industry is saying that the world will not be the same anymore.
mm,
And I suspect it'll happen to facilitators also in
mm,
our field. For example,
mm,
the market has already gotten so used to online, online, online. I
mm.
won't be surprised they are coming back to us and say, can you do this session, do it online? When actually all of them are in Singapore, all of them can just come into the same room for a face to face, but they're
Yeah,
going to
man.
ask for, So I think that's one major thing we need to be prepared for.
Right.
Personally, for me, I if I can influence them, I'll say don't replace the face to face. Right? I mean, we have already established that even in the
Yes.
chat group, it's all being reaffirmed. Our
Yes.
fraternity is agreeing to it. Nothing beats face to face. So I think that's one thing. We need to kind of fight it and not
Mm.
facilitators need to fight it and not be taken in, and then the future world is just all about online. I mean, online has its place. So I think that's one major shift that might happen, and we need to be prepared. Yeah. One point. Yeah.
Okay.
I would go with what Prabu has mentioned earlier, is that we as facilitators, we say future of facilitation of facilitators is we need to be agile. So being agile means we need to be comfortable with technology and use it as appropriate. Use it when it is going to bring in more benefits, more pros and cons. Yeah, so yeah, but of course not use it just because it is there, or use it because it's more convenient. I don't have to travel, but use it
Yes.
if we can achieve the objectives much better, right? So it become an additional choice and option to consider. It should not be by default. Yeah, and then we make a conscious choice, and it's always for the benefit of the participants. Yeah.
Yes, I like that. Yeah, so technology is to serve mankind, and we leverage on technology and always focus on the best interests of the client, of the group. Yeah, if the reason really is very strong that it is face to face is better to bring the group together, then we should really stand up and try to advocate for that. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah. So if you're with us right now, we are with the co-authors for the book Spot on Facilitation. Yeah. So for any of you who would like to connect with them, they have kindly shared both their emails on the screen. You can snap a photo. And if you head over to their website, Facilitator Network Singapore, which is fns.sg, you will find a series of facilitation workshops, including the one that Prabu spoke about earlier, Virtual Facilitation 2.0. They have very kindly given us 10% discount for viewers if you email them to pre-register. Just mention the name of this show. Hello, I'm an author. Ask me anything. Okay. Support our local authors. Yep. If you get the book Spot on Facilitation, you can scan the QR code and head over to our online bookstore. Before we end, we would love to hear your feedback. So please leave your feedback in the comment box. So just a reminder, this is the episode number 10, which is also the concluding episode for season 1 of Hello, I'm an Author, Ask Me Anything. Yep, so help us to continue to share this video so that your friends can watch the replay as well. And yep, likes are always very encouraging to us. Okay, so let me head back to the screen again. So before we end today's episode, I just want to ask our two guest authors, any last words of wisdom for our facilitators in the room?
No, I want to thank you, Kong Hua, for organizing this and for inviting us and letting us have such a great time, even though it's short, just to share our views. I want to thank all who have logged in to join us. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us.
Welcome. Prabu?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, first of all, for this opportunity, right, to be here. Also, thank you from 10 years ago when you told us and say, get that book out, So 2011, we released the book, right?
Yes.
So thank you for that too, right? Yeah. My message to to the fraternity is, as facilitators, we are a very special breed. I like to see ourselves that way. So whether it is business as usual, non-crisis normal times, or crises, we can play a part, and we will be needed. So let's all feel good that we have this ability, and we have been given this gift to do the work that we are doing.
Thanks for that. Thanks for the very encouraging note. Yeah, as facilitators, we all play a very important role in society. And whether is it through face-to-face or through virtual, it is just a medium where we reach out to our participants, our group. So as long as we are agile, we're adaptable, we can still do the work that we always do. Thank you so much. And to all our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. Oh, Shannon has a question. He asked, any facilitation course you conducting? So Shannon, please head over to fns.sg That's the
Yes.
website. And you will be able to find all the facilitation workshops that Prabu and Janice offer. Yeah. So thank you everyone for all your support. This is episode number 10. I'm really happy, also sad. Yeah, this is the last episode for season 1. Look forward to season 2. I don't know when it will come, but it will surely come again. All right. Thank you
Okay.
everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Good night.